Chapter 1. Anne and Stan's Opportunity. Anne and Stan are a large pair of novelty salt and pepper pots, Anne being the salt dispenser and Stan being the pepper dispenser. They live with the Robinson family, who are Tom, Barbara, and their 2 young children, Julian and Lucy. Anne and Stan live in the family kitchen, and they are usually placed on the kitchen table ready for use. Anne and Stan like living with the Robinson family, but they have a secret and burning desire to explore the outside world and have some fun and adventures of their very own. Anne and Stan are not your everyday normal salt and pepper pots. They have secret abilities and secret ambitions. Unknown to the Robinson family, these pepper pots have the special ability to move, to walk, to jump, and even to talk. Anne and Stan are hoping to go on a magical adventure together when the time is right. It was a beautiful sunny Sunday morning, and for Anne and Stan, the salt and pepper pots, it appeared to be just a normal day. The family came down to the kitchen one by one to prepare their morning breakfast. Tom and Barbara liked to cook breakfast in the morning. Julian and Lucy usually preferred to have cereal and toast. Anne and Stan, the salt and pepper pots, were placed on the kitchen table. As usual, they had a little work to do because Tom and Barbara liked a small amount of salt and pepper on their bacon and eggs. On this particular morning, Lucy was the last one to come down for her breakfast, and Anne and Stan had noticed that Lucy had left the inside kitchen door wide open, and they could see right into the hallway. And to their surprise, they could see several suitcases, some small boxes, and a couple of rucksacks. It was at that precise moment that Anne and Stan had realized that the family were going away on holiday. They carefully glanced at each other. It was very obvious that they were thinking the same thoughts. Could this be the opportunity that they had been waiting for? Then, sure enough, that confirmation was to follow. Barbara had just reminded Lucy to bring down her bucket and spade from her playroom after she had finished her breakfast. That was it for certain. The Robinson family were definitely going away on holiday and to the seaside. It was not very long after this that the family started to pack their car with their suitcases, boxes, rucksacks, and everything else, including Lucy's bucket and spade. Anne and Stan were now expecting to get their very own freedom and that magical opportunity that they had been longing and waiting for. Surely, that moment had now finally arrived. The door closed. Anne and Stan listened to the family's car driving away. Complete silence. The salt and pepper pots now had the house to themselves, and that freedom and opportunity to do what they had always wanted to do. They could now start to explore, take those first steps into an unknown world. It was completely safe. They could now move, walk, jump, and even talk. Chapter 2. The Magical Adventure Begins. Anne and Stan's excitement ran through their salt and pepper pot bodies. They jumped down from the kitchen table, buzzing and dancing away in a frenzied rush. It felt so very good to be able to run across the floor, to climb the stairs, and to jump on the beds. Anne went into Lucy's room, and she thought it was lovely. It was a very colorful room with pink walls, pink bedding, and some pretty pink cushions. Anne could see beautiful dolls and many cute teddy bears. One of Lucy's teddy bears took her eye, and she picked it up and held it in her arms. It was so cute and extremely soft to touch. It had a small button at the bottom of its left arm with the words "Push Me." Anne pressed the button, and to her great surprise, the teddy bear started to sing. She absolutely loved it. Stan was in Julian's room. It was a typical boy's room. Stan could see lots of toys everywhere. Racing cars, a tractor and trailer, and lots of games, puzzles, and books. There was a small guitar in the corner of the room, which Stan picked up. He managed to play a few musical notes, but in truth, it did not sound very good. But that did not matter to Stan, because he was still enjoying himself. Anne and Stan had a good start to their freedom. They liked Julian and Lucy's bedrooms, because they had some really great toys and games to play with. Great fun. Stan called out to Anne, "It looks warm and sunny. Let's go to the back garden and explore." The Salt and Pepper Pots ran down the stairs on their way to the back door that led to the garden. "Oh dear!" cried out Anne. "The back door to the garden is locked." "Where's the key?" asked Stan. They looked around, but they could not find any key. "We will have to find another way out," said Anne. "But how?" moaned Stan. The Salt and Pepper Pots stood by the back door, just thinking. They expected the door to be locked, but they expected to find a key. "Let's check the front door," said Anne. But it was no good. That door was also locked. "Blow! There must be a way out," shouted Stan. "The window handles are locked as well," cried out Anne. The Salt and Pepper Pots looked at each other with very sad eyes. "Let's not get too upset," said Anne. "But we are trapped in here now," cried out Stan. For the first time, the Salt and Pepper Pots had lost their excitement. They went into the living room and sat down. "Let's think hard," said Stan. "There must be another way to get outside." Anne got up and climbed onto the shelf that was just below the living room window, and she looked outside. "Look, there's some small pretty birds flying around the garden, and something is worrying them." "What do you mean?" asked Stan, as he looked out the window. "It's that black cat coming up the garden path," said Anne. "The birds are terrified of it." "You're right," said Stan. "I can remember Lucy telling Barbara that her cat was always chasing the birds." "I really miss Lucy's cat," said Anne. "I can remember that it often went out into the back garden very early in the morning, long before the family were up." "That's it!" shouted Stan with joy. "It went out through the cat flap! And we can too!" Anne smiled and jumped for joy. The way to get outside and continue their adventure was to go through the cat flap. Chapter 3. How to be Happy. The Salt and Pepper Pots made their way to the utility room. They looked down at the cat flap. "Let's go," said Stan, with renewed excitement. "I'll help you through, Anne," said Stan. Stan pushed at the cat flap, and Anne went carefully through. Then Stan quickly followed Anne with ease. Anne and Stan stood still outside the cat flap door for a moment. The sky was blue, and it was still a warm and sunny day. The Robinson family had a large and secluded back garden. "It's a beautiful garden," said Anne. The garden was full of colorful flowers, and it had some fine trees. Beautiful butterflies and bees were busy in the garden. There was also a very large lawn that was just ideal for children to play. "Gosh, it feels very strange to be outside the house," said Stan. "Yes, it does," agreed Anne. "Let's take a good look around." At the back of the garden, the Salt and Pepper Pots could see a climbing frame, a double garden swing, and a splendid garden slide. There was also a colorful summer house. Anne headed for the garden swing. Stan decided to try the garden slide. There was a warm, gentle breeze, and it was fairly easy for Anne to get swinging. "This is just lovely," shouted Anne. Stan had carefully climbed the steps to the very top of the garden slide. He sat down at the top with his legs out in front of him. He looked down at the steep slope of the slide. Anne could see Stan at the top of the slide, and she shouted out to him, "What are you waiting for?" At that very moment, Stan was ready. He eased gently forward, and the weight of his body took him down the slide at speed. At first he was a little frightened, but as he neared the bottom, he felt a lot more brave and confident. He really enjoyed it. "Wow! That looks really good fun!" shouted out Anne. "It's just great!" replied Stan. "Come and try it." So Anne jumped off the garden swing, and she went over to the slide. "It's a little frightening at first," he warned Anne. "But it's great fun," he promised her. Anne suddenly felt a little nervous, but just like Stan, she really wanted to give it a go. She carefully climbed the steps on the slide, and Stan followed her up. When Anne reached the very top, she sat down, just like Stan did, and she had a good look around. "It's really high up here," she muttered. "Don't worry," reassured Stan. "Go for it. It was now or never." "Well, here goes," said Anne. She went down very fast indeed. "Wow! Wow! Wow!" she screamed, all the way down. Stan quickly followed her, without any hesitation this time. The Salt and Pepper Pots were having a really good time in the garden and feeling happy. They now fully understood why Julian and Lucy loved to play outside in their garden. It was now time for the Salt and Pepper Pots to take a rest. They found a comfy garden seat in the corner of the garden that was in partial shade. They sat down and looked around the garden and beyond. "We don't know anything about the area outside of this garden," said Anne. "No, you're right," agreed Stan. "It looks like there's a footpath that goes into the village, and I can see a pathway that goes through a gate. It looks like it may be a park with some beautiful trees," added Stan. "I think it's getting late," said Anne. "The light's starting to fade. Let's explore outside the garden in the morning." "Yes, we'll do that," agreed Stan. Anne and Stan slowly returned back to the house, and they went carefully back through the cat flap. "Let's go upstairs now and have a good sleep," suggested Stan. "Fine. You can sleep in Julian's room," replied Anne. "I will sleep in Lucy's room." "Yes, okay," replied Stan, starting to yawn. As soon as their tiny heads rested on the pillow, the Salt and Pepper Pots were very comfortable, and they quickly fell fast asleep. They had a really smashing first day. They had already planned ahead for another magical day in the morning.